Hello, it's IINO. This time, I would like to broadcast logistics news in September 2022. I will focus on the shipping market, including declining profits of shipping companies, reduced service, and the rise of India as a producer, as well as other news from digitalization in shipping industry. So, let's get started. Shipping company profits down 80% in 2024. Increased supply of vessels in the next 2 years. HSBC, a global bank, has announced that container shipping is entering a down cycle due to overcapacity and declining demand, and that shipping company profits will decline by more than 80% over the next 2 years. The container ship industry is expected by some to reach a whopping $300 billion in profits in 2021 and 2022, with record profitability, after shipping companies made record profits in the first half of 2021. However, since the dawn of 2022, market of spot rate has plummeted from the record levels achieved in 2021. At this point, demand is still firm in North America, but has dropped noticeably for Europe. Nevertheless, ship orders are at a 13-year high, as shipping companies have invested in vessels after hitting high profits from the corona pandemic. As new vessels are delivered in the future, shipping companies' earnings are expected to drop considerably by 2024. Shipping companies announce plans to reduce service to North America ahead of China's National Day. Amid weak demand and falling spot freight rates, 2 container alliances have announced plans to reduce capacity on their trans-Pacific vessels. There are hopes in the industry that this reduction in service will help stem the decline in spot freight rates, as shippers try to negotiate better terms with carriers. One analyst, however, said the move is related to the common reduction of flights during China's national holiday period, and will do little to stem the decline in spot freight rates. Trade between India and North America volume surges. Shift in sourcing from China? Container trade between India and the United States increased 8.3% in the first half of 2022, after surging 23.5% for the full year of 2021. Total merchandise trade between India and the U.S. rose 48.3% to a record $119.4 billion in fiscal year 2021 to 2022. It makes the U.S. India's largest trading partner, surpassing China, according to data from the Indian Department of Commerce. One U.S.-based manufacturer noted that its dominant position of Chinese market is gradually eroding due to tariff conflicts with the U.S., economic pressures from the zero-corona policy, and rising labor costs. In terms of costs, some say that India is 30% cheaper than China, especially in the textile and apparel sectors. In the shipping industry, major shipping lines have responded to increased demand by increasing capacity between the U.S. and India, primarily through new and additional services to the ports of Jawaharlal Nehru and Mundra. PortX adds ability to share import and export costs internally with platform. Finally, I have some technology news. PortX, an international logistics quoting efficiency platform, has added the ability to digitally manage the internal sharing and simulation of import and export costs to its platform. With the addition of this new functionality, shippers' logistics departments will be able to perform the below tasks on PortX's platform. Internal deployment of import and export costs for each division. Internal estimation of import and export costs for each division's logistics department. This enables each business unit to immediately and accurately confirm import and export costs reflected in costs, and the logistics department to streamline the enormous amount of cost notification work. In addition, communication costs between the two parties will be greatly reduced, which is expected to be very effective. Let's turn now to commentary section. First, here is the shocking news that shipping companies' profits will drop by more than 80% over the next 2 years. Current average spot rates from China to North America and North Europe are below long-term contract rates. Against this backdrop, as of the end of June, there was a backlog of orders for 6.6 million TEU worth of container ships, approximately 27% of the world's total tonnage. Most of the vessels are scheduled for delivery in the next 2 years, despite the fact that major markets in Europe and the United States are facing major economic uncertainties. HSBC says that a market downturn is inevitable and will likely bottom out in 2024. However, the shipping industry will be able to maintain profits compared to pre-corona levels because of rising interest rate levels, he said. It is important to note that the decline is not as great as it was before corona. There is a fair price for everything, and if the price is right, and the supply of ships increases, it will be a more convenient world for shippers. Next is news of the Alliance's decision to reduce trans-Pacific sailings amid falling spot fares. 2M Alliance and the Alliance have announced that they will reduce their 10 weekly calls to Southern California ports from mid-September to early October. The two alliances will blank 6 flights to the U.S. East Coast during the same period. Other routes to the U.S. East Coast, Gulf Coast, and Western Canada will be delayed 1 to 2 weeks from the original schedule. In response, Sea Intelligence's CEO stated that this move is not out of line with common practice as a pre-National Day reduction. The question is whether this will be acceptable to shippers and regulators, he said, because even with lower freight rates, they are still well above pre-corona levels. Specific schedules are available from the websites of 2M Alliances Maersk and MSC, the Alliances ONE, Hyundai Merchant Marine, Hapag-Lloyd, and Yangman. Next, I will discuss news from India, a producer country. Trade between the US and India reached an all-time high, due to increased demand for consumer goods in North America, and an accelerated shift in sourcing from China during the corona pandemic. Trade between the US and India grew at an accelerated pace during the first 5 months of 2022, thanks to large orders from major retailers, such as Walmart, Target, and Amazon, as well as online market pricing, according to the report. Due in part to the conflict between the US and China, China's zero-corona policy, and the wire issue, production bases are beginning to flow to India. Shipping giant MSC added a third weekly service between West India and the US East Coast at the end of August. Hapag-Lloyd and CMA CGM are adding a second weekly service in October 2021. China Plus One has been around for some time, but it seems to have accelerated further with corona this time. India has a strong image of IT, but attention is now focusing on the manufacture of consumer goods here. India, which may be changing as a production country, will continue to attract more attention in the future. Finally, I brought you technology news. Large shippers such as manufacturers and trading companies did not have a centrally managed import and export cost database within their company. Therefore, they incurred significant operational costs in sharing cost information between the logistics department and each business unit, and in simulating costs for each project requested by the business unit. On PortX's platform, this internal sharing of import and export costs and estimation work can be performed, which improves operational efficiency and reduces costs. While this is a very useful feature, there is a possibility that the entire company will start using a particular cheap forwarder, as their freight rates are shared internally and compared with other departments' forwarders. In this situation, the major forwarders will have an advantage. Since shippers using this feature are also large companies, it is more likely that they will consolidate with the major players. As platform makes it easier to compare costs, smaller companies that cannot compete with the big players in terms of costs will suffer. I believe that each forwarder will be required to take more solid measures to survive. How was the news this time? This month, there were major developments in the shipping market, and I have focused mainly on them. The situation is changing by the minute. It is important to obtain a wide range of information and understand the situation. If you found this news useful, please subscribe to my channel, like it, and share on social networking sites. That's all for this time. Thank you very much.
In this channel, I explain about international logistics knowledge for your better understanding. I hope this video will be a good support for your logistics job. If you have any shipment from Thailand or to Thailand, please feel free to contact me, IINO-san, anytime. Also, I'm very motivated to keep updating these videos. If you subscribe, press good or comment anything. Well, thank you. See you next time.